Welcome to our live feed from Gulf Specimen Marine Lab and Aquarium. And today's star of our feature is the octopus. We're going to be talking about this particular octopus and octopus in general and several of their relatives. But before we get right into that, many of you have inquired about the sea turtle Monday, and I think it was Monday, and we apparently had an online poll to name that turtle. The choices were Big Bertha and Myrtle, and the winner is Myrtle. So Myrtle the turtle is at the vet right now, getting checked out and hopefully getting a clean bill of health, and eventually we'll be releasing Myrtle back into the wild. So anyway, this octopus is not very happy right now, bless his heart. We drug him out of his little cave, which is where they normally live, and hide, and out into the open, into the very bright sunlight, for you to be able to see him. Octopus are a part of a larger group called the cephalopods, which means head foot, and essentially they have a big rounded hump usually that contains all the visceral organs, and then that is surrounded by a group of muscular arms. In this group are the octopus and the squid and the nautilus. There's only one nautilus alive today, but in the past there were many shelled cephalopods, and this is the chambered nautilus. And you have to imagine an octopus with lots and lots of arms sticking out of this end, okay? And I'm going to turn this shell around, and there's a little tube of tissue that the nautilus has that goes all the way back to this very first chamber, and essentially they secrete gas into these chambers if they want to come up in the water, and they take gas out of the chambers with that tissue if they want to go down in the water column. And these kind of are a mid-water organism. Octopus are generally benthic. That means they usually live on the bottom. They like to hide in some kind of little cave or den. And then the third group are the squids. This is not a live squid. This is a squid, like the ones we use to feed things here. Okay, but the nautilus are very active swimmers, and they have fins, and they have, in addition to 8 arms like the octopus, they have these 2 long, what are called tentacles. Okay, and these are very elastic, and they have like a little pad on the end that they shoot those out and capture their prey. And usually when they're swimming, the tentacles and the arms are all held together. But one of the things I wanted, only that he has suckers just like the octopus, but also in the center of all these, octopus and squid have a beak. Oh, can you see it? And they use that to tear flesh off of things, and the octopus also have a venom that they inject when they hit things with the beak. All of them are venomous to some extent, but the venom doesn't affect humans except in one octopus, the blue-ringed octopus reef, and it's a fairly small, different kinds of octopus, and there are little tiny ones that the smallest one is about 1 inch long, and the largest one is giant Pacific octopus that has arms about 8 or 9 feet long, so across it would be 16 to 18 feet, and those usually weigh around 150 pounds. This octopus, however, our local octopus, the common or common brown octopus, is very abundant throughout the Atlantic, from areas up around New England all the way south down along the coast of South America, throughout the Gulf and the Caribbean. This is an animal that is fished commercially in some areas, and they are edible. There are usually, a lot of people in the United States don't eat them, but in many other countries, these are a common part of the diet. Now, I want to talk about something that 2 or 3 live feeds ago when we were doing horseshoe crabs, somebody wrote a question that asked me if horseshoe crabs had the same kind of blood as octopus, because we mentioned that horseshoe crabs have blood that is got a copper pigment in it that turns it kind of a bluish color, almost a turquoise color, and with a chemical in it called hemocyanin instead of hemoglobin like we have in our blood. And I didn't know the answer then, but I do now, and octopus do indeed have blood that has hemocyanin in it, and so it's got that bluish color. Octopus have a closed circulatory system, meaning that the blood is in a vessel of some sort all of the time. They have 3 hearts. They have a main heart that has 3 chambers and 2 smaller accessory hearts that help pump blood through the gills. Now, I think that Allison is getting a good shot at the octopus here, and you can see all of its tentacles, and you can see kind of a rounded, what looks like a head, and it's got 2 eyes at the top of that structure. That's actually called the visceral mass. It's got all of the internal organs, the lungs, the gut and intestines, the kidney-like structures, the liver-like structure. And then you may see what looks like a little tube that's kind of a yellow color that's opening and closing. The area all around that hump is open, and water gets pulled in to that. The covering over that visceral hump is made up of mantle, which is a membrane that is typical of all mollusks, and it's got a real muscular layer, so it can pull water in all the way around through the gills, but then the water is expelled through that siphon. So the siphon has a respiratory function, but it also has a locomotor function. The octopus can direct that siphon anywhere it wants and squirt water out, and then that's going to push him in the opposite direction. So it's a very effective means of jetting around the ocean when he needs to be fast. And in behind that siphon, there is an ink gland. If the octopus is startled or threatened, oftentimes they will ink, and the ink is filled with lots and lots of melanin, so it looks real brown or black, and it clouds the water. Some octopus actually have, I understand, anesthetic that is also in that ink that can confuse the predator and dull their senses, and that gives the octopus time to get away. Now, when they get away, oftentimes they change color, they change position. They can do what's called a dazzle display, which means they may move 5, 6, 7, 8 different times, and each time they'll change color. They're absolutely mastered camouflage. You can put them in a tank with lots of different kinds of backgrounds, and they will mimic the background so that they just away from just like these are because there is no background, but if you put change color to mimic the rocks or the algae or whatever is around him. And he's got scattered throughout his skin are molecules called opsins that detect out.
Okay, and we're live again.
Okay. Sorry, technical difficulties. Stream, you know, it's all by the seat of our pants. Anyway, I think when it quit filming that we were talking about the fact that octopus are masters at disguise and camouflage, and that they can mimic almost any background. Not only can they mimic the color, but they can mimic the texture of the background by changing the surface of the skin. They can get bumpy, they can get like fringe. They have just lots of different possibilities that allow them to blend into the surroundings. Now, we think that happens with these little chemicals that detects light and detects different colors in the rods and cones of our eyes. These have them scattered all over the skin. And even though they don't have color vision in this particular octopus, some octopus have color vision, but not the common brown octopus. And but we think that those chemicals sense the wavelengths of light in the surrounding environment and allow the octopus to open and close these little pigment sacs called chromatophores that allow it to change color. Squid also have this ability to change color, and both octopus and squid are thought to use color and pattern change as a way of communicating with one another. I know that in the common brown octopus there are at least 30 displays that have been documented that send a message. Like, he may turn real red and his little arms would curl all up, and that means I'm angry. Or he may turn real pale and he'll get real black rings around his eyes, and that means I'm frightened. So they're also very adept at escape. Octopus can get out of almost anything, which is why we have this tank here with a big rock on the top, and it's why out of his original tank, they're very good at getting out of things, and that makes it very difficult to handle them sometimes and keep perfectly safe, and they'll seem perfectly happy until they in the morning and they're gone and dead on the floor because they've managed to push the lid off or find a little hole, and if they can get their beak through it, through that opening. So very amazing escape artists. Okay, now octopus are very food. Before we finish up here today, I want to put a little crab in here in a jar with a lid on it, because octopus are very good problem solvers. We think they're the most intelligent of all the invertebrates. They have a amazingly large brain for an invertebrate, and that's a series of big nerve bodies, and they seem to solve things amazingly well. So they're also really, really smart, and oftentimes they can solve problems that we don't expect them to. But getting the crab, which is one of their favorite foods, out of the jar is one that they often do. I can't guarantee that he will do it, but we're going to give it a shot. Can you bring that little... Keith is my major octopus wrangler for today. He's going to make sure that as we play with our octopus, etc., yeah, we want it on, and we want to kind of drop it in there. I'm going to open this up, Keith, on this end. If you would stick it down in there. He's not happy. Look! What is that, you say? Let's see if he recognizes that as a food item and tries to, because he will definitely investigate it. See right there, he's latched on. And even though today was feeding day, we didn't feed him very much. So hopefully he will manage to break into that jar. Nothing, huh?
It's okay, we can wait.
Put
have to let
yeah, you put it on there really tight.
I'll also put it on a little loose.
Hey, you can if you want to, Keith. We just escaped. Shot at that while you do that. Keith's gonna open the jar a little bit. Poor frightened little crab is going. What's going on? But molecules from that crab should be escaping into the surrounding water and getting our octopus's attention. His little siphon is really going. While
we're eating. Okay, we have some questions.
Okay.
Okay, what is usually the normal deep they live?
Well, there are some species of octopus that live all the way into very deep, 2,000 feet or more. This one, I don't believe goes that deep, but this one is certainly found offshore all along the continental shelf, so probably down to 600 feet or so.
Do they live in pretty shallow waters as well?
They do, and there are some octopus that are even hiding in shells and that kind of thing. So we have another octopus that is common here in the Gulf of Mexico that's small. It's only about 3.5 inches long, called Octopus juveni. And I have found it most often when I'm wading. If I pick up a shell and I look inside for the hermit crab or whatever else might be hiding in there, sometimes it's this tiny little octopus that is hiding on the inside. And even, okay, next question. Sorry, I was going to go off on a tangent, but I'll stop.
What is their mating behavior like?
Well, they, they don't have a specific pattern of courtship rituals, and they, the male has a very special arm at the end, paddle-like structure on the end, that during mating he takes the spermatophore, the package of sperm, and uses that special arm to put it up inside the mantle of the female, and she may lay eggs right away, but then she may hang on to those sperm and not lay eggs for 2 or 3 months. Now, in our area, these guys usually start coming into shallower waters in like December and January, and during that time they will find a mate and beginning, probably mid-February, the females, if they have mated, will begin to lay eggs outside of the den, and she spends her time all day cleaning and aerating and taking care of those eggs until they hatch. Once she has laid the eggs, she quits feeding. And the male, many of the males, once they have bred, they also quit feeding. And so by the end of March, beginning of April, many of the octopus have died. They have about a 1-year lifespan. We managed to, I don't know why this one is still alive. Most of our octopus died around the end of March, the middle of April. We had about 8 or 9 in the tank where this one is now held. And if you want to see octopus at Gulf Specimen, it's best to come in the winter because that's when we are most likely to have them. This, we believe, is a male, and we believe that because we think that the sperm packet, that piece of arm just breaks off inside the mantle. So they do have to get, now I've watched in the tank what we think is a mating, and basically they come close together. There are several different color changes. The little arms snake around one another so that they have felt the other octopus in detail. Not that there's not an embrace necessarily. And at some point in time, the male will sneak that little spermatophore up inside the mantle of the female, and then they'll separate and go their separate ways.
So, do the males live longer then?
Not usually. This one will die soon, we believe. He fed a little bit last week. He looks like he's going to feed this week, but eventually he will just stop feeding and he'll just wither away.
So similar to the females, they stop
Exactly.
eating when they give
Once
theirs.
mating has occurred, then the continued survival is not as important. And the young by that time are out in open water and are growing quickly and moving back down to the bottom. They spend a part of their time up in the plankton, but it's a very short period of time.
How many babies can they have?
Oh gosh, that is a really good question. I don't know. I'm sure there's over 200 usually in a clutch. I've seen the little cases you only have one count because the eggs are always really well hidden up in the little den. While we're talking about that though, I want to talk about this little octopus. I don't have a picture, but open water octopus, very unlike most octopus. It doesn't settle to the bottom. And here you see it hanging on to what is actually an egg case. And when it lays its eggs, because it doesn't have a den, it secretes this gorgeous shell that is spiraled, very much like the nautilus shell, and the eggs are attached on the inside of there. And then she maintains this whole little egg case until all the baby, and then this washes up on the shore. Now, I don't believe we have any paper nautilus in the Atlantic. I think these are all in the Pacific. But this is just a gorgeous example of a really neat specimen. If I'm going to put this over here, and I don't know if she's going to be able to get it, but there are short arms and have a very different kind of lifestyle. The legs are often webbed almost all the way to the tips. But inside those octopus is this tiny little spiraled shell with chambers, just like the inside of the chambered nautilus. And they use that, once again, to help maintain the correct buoyancy so that they can come up in the water or drop down in the water as they need to. Other questions?
What kind of octopuses do we have around here?
The two that are some deep water octopus in the Gulf that I'm not aware of. But the one that is most common is this one, Octopus vulgaris, the common or brown octopus. And then we have this little bitty one called Octopus juvenile.
Are they endangered?
I don't believe they're endangered. Either one of them.
Okay. Do they bite?
They can. I've not ever been bitten by one of these, and I don't know anyone who's been bitten by one of these common octopus, but I know several people who've been bitten by the little bitty ones. And oftentimes they may have a reaction, or they get a rash, or they get shortness of breath, or something, because keep in mind all octopus are venomous. It's just that the venom doesn't usually affect humans fatally, except for the blue-ringed octopus. But you may have a reaction. Different individuals. I've been bitten. I've never had a reaction, but I've been with people who've been bitten, and they do have a reaction.
What do they eat?
They love crustaceans, crabs in particular, but they'll also eat fish, and I have a feeling they probably also eat snails. They have a radula like a snail, so they can rasp flesh away once they have killed them with the beak and torn some of the flesh off. So I think probably other mollusks like snails and clams and crabs and an occasional fish if he gets too close.
I've heard that the octopus has 3 hearts.
Yeah, and they do. They have a main heart that has 3 chambers, just like we have a chambered heart. Theirs has an auricle where the blood collects and 2 ventricles where it gets pumped out, and it gets pumped out towards the gills. And then there are 2 what they call auxiliary hearts or gill hearts that take that blood and pump it through the gills and make sure that it's well oxygenated.
Okay, how many brains do they have?
Okay, that's a hard one. They only have, most, when you hear people talk about brains in octopus, they usually refer to 1 brain. And essentially, octopus, like a lot of other invertebrates, have these clusters of nerve cells that go around the esophagus. And in the case of the octopus, there are several of those clusters of cells, ganglia, that are together, cartilaginous capsule, that forms, quote, the brain. So if you count the ganglion as separate brains, there would be 1 number, but if you count them all together, there's just the 1.
That's what we have for today.